Hello and welcome to Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends. I am Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and this is one of my friends. And he's going to be sitting here with me because he's still having problems with his computer. So, in the beginning, I'm going to be the only one that's speaking, but after I do my commentary, my friends will come on the air and join us. So, okay, the topic tonight is when all else fails, try facing reality. Now, I will grant you that we will do everything or anything in order to not face reality. So, we have to be pretty desperate before we actually take that approach. So, as I said in the introduction to the show, that in the little blurb, I talk about how we are either depressed or real delusional, and that there is an alternative. And so, what do I mean by that? So, this could be about you and your personal life, you and your health, you and your relationship, uh, the world, looking at our political or social or economic system. We can get very discouraged. Like, okay, let me take my health as an example. So, as many of you know, I'm 80 years old and I was born with the hereditary condition. So, I was sick during my entire childhood. But then when I was 15, I got worse. So it's like, oh, yeah, I had something to look forward to. I got much worse. Okay. And so this has been 65 years of nonstop pain, fatigue, misery, and so of all kinds. And so I'm always waiting for how am I going to how the solution? How am I going to deal with this? So one way that I can deal with it is to say, well, I'm sick, I'll always be sick, I just might as well get used to it, and I better plan my life around being sick. In fact, as I'm aging, I'm getting worse. Okay, so that's one way. You could say, well, isn't that facing reality? Well, not really. So now let me look at delusion. So what does delusion look like? Is, oh, every minute I'm always expecting this is going to work, or that's going to work, or this miraculous cure is going to happen, or I'm going to, okay. And so, and it never does. So that's delusion. Like I'm deluding myself into thinking that there's some kind of magical answer to my health. So, what is facing reality in this case? Well, believe it or not, it's the combination of those things. In this case, I'm not saying in all cases, I have to face the fact that I am the way I am. And I do need to think about, okay, if I don't get better, what should we do? Because James and I are trying to figure out whether or not to move. So we say, well, if I don't get better and if he doesn't get better, is it really a good idea to move? But we really want to move. And so, yeah, then I have magical thinking that says, yeah, I'm going to move and I'm going to be fine. And that's going to fix the problem. That's magical thinking and so on. But supposing I said, yes, as of today, we shouldn't move. I'm too sick. He's too impaired in his ways. But then supposing I said, but it is always possible that there is a way that I could become better or that he could become better. How do we know that that isn't possible? That is reality. The idea that, well, it's never worked before, it won't work now, I'll never get better. See, that's depressive. And yeah, let's move. Well, somehow it'll all work out. That's delusional. So, if you're following me, you'll understand what I'm saying, that in this particular case, it's realizing the gravity of the situation, being willing to face the reality and say, okay, what's up now? What can I do? And still be totally open to maybe something will help me. You just never know, do you? You know, there was no vaccine for polio. There goes the dog. There was no vaccine for polio until there was. And then there were two, as a matter of fact. So when I was a child, we grew up with a constant fear of polio. And that was a terrible fate. So, and then suddenly there was a vaccine and it went away. So things do, miraculous things do happen. I mean, they look miraculous. Okay, so in our case, what we need to do in terms of moving, for example, in my way of thinking, don't get depressed. Don't assume that it won't happen. Just say right now, the way we are, we have to look at where should we live if we both stay as we are or if we continue to decline with age. That may not be exactly the thing that we want to have happen, but why don't we keep open the possibility that something will occur? It's the same thing about nobody's buying our house. Well, that doesn't mean that nobody will come along, that somebody won't come along tomorrow and buy our house. So why don't people want to face reality? What a great question. And I'm going to have my panel talk about this for themselves, is what realities are they not facing and why don't they want to face them? But I think that for me, a lot of times facing reality feels depressing. Okay, we're living in a nation where free speech is being attacked, trampled on, where the corruption is blatant, is unbelievable, where hatred seems to rule, where there's a lot of people who are angry at one another and blaming each other. There's incredible cruelty to the degree of actually just, killing people through raids of immigrants, putting them in situations where they die. I mean, it's like you look at this and you say, oh my God, how can this be? This can't be. So you could get very depressed. On the other hand, you could say, well, I know for sure that tomorrow there will be an uprising and everybody is going to rise up at the same time on the same day and it'll all be overthrown. Well, does that sound like reality? Or does the first, like, oh, everything's terrible, it's going to be terrible, we'll never get out of this, does that sound like reality? We think that negative is reality, right? That tends to be what we tend to think. On the other hand, those of us, those people who are kind of like into spiritual platitudes and all of that, they may think that wishful thinking is reality, and they say, no, this is the way it really is, and we're just brainwashed into thinking that it isn't this way. No, maybe not. So in that respect, I would say, if we're talking about our political and social system, that there is an incredible amount of pain. There's a lot of repression. There's a lot of authoritarianism. And we have lived through, so it feels like, this isn't going to be easy because the real fix is having a spiritual awakening across the world. And everybody wakes up in the rapture tonight and has had this spiritual awakening. And we all realize that we need to be kind to one another and that we need to support one another. Okay, that sounds just a tad delusional, right? Because things are not quite like that. But supposing we said, this is tough, these are tough times, there's a lot of fighting among us about what's the right path. Is this true? We have polarization, all of that is true, but it doesn't mean that we can't get through this. And that, if we say that, it doesn't mean that we can't get through that. Then where does our brain go? See, our brain starts going towards, well, maybe there is a solution, and what could it be? To me, it is about shifting consciousness. And okay, so shifting consciousness may look like it's a tough haul on a long haul, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible, does it? My consciousness has changed. I've seen the consciousness of other people change. I've seen people changing right now. Fascinating thing that I saw today about the Charlie Kirk assassination, that there are people on the right, the right wing, I don't mean that, who are right, who are saying that the story that they're getting from the FBI is totally bogus. I mean, I'm looking at these guys with all of their guns and everything, and they're experienced gun people, and they are saying if the guy, the so-called assassin, was sitting where he was sitting and he shot that gun, his head would have been blown apart and taken off, and that the exit wound would be in a different place. They said, oh, somehow or other there was no exit wound to this. And then they say, yeah, because it was a miracle. And then somebody said that he was wearing a bulletproof vest, but his wife said no, he was not wearing a bulletproof vest. So there's no explanation. And so our friends on the right, who have a tendency to look for conspiracies anyway, are just churning this around on social media and saying they are lying to us. Now, isn't that unlikely? Would you have expected that? Oh, maybe you did, but I'm not that smart. I would never have expected that people on the left and people on the right are both saying, gee, I wonder what actually happened there. And it looks like the guy who is being accused of being the killer, who says he wasn't the killer, couldn't be the killer. And they're even saying that his texts were AI. So now, could we have known that this was going to happen? Certainly not. Now, what difference that's going to make, I don't know. It's like the Epstein files. Who knows? We just had an election in Arizona, and a woman was elected to Congress who could push over the request for the I guess it's the Justice Department, release all the Epstein files. So a month ago, nobody thought that was going to happen. So what I'm telling you is that if you despair and say, oh, no, and people can't change, people will never come together. Well, how do we know that? We don't know that. We don't know what is going to happen. We've seen Bernie Sanders going around the country talking to people. So if we get all depressed and everything, we're just depressed. And if we just sit there and have wishful thinking and say, well, just as the sun comes out in the morning, so the light of spirit will emerge and everybody will levitate. And all of a sudden we'll have a peaceful world. But no, what about if we said, okay, maybe there is some hope. What can we do? See, coming back to the example that I started with, which was about our health, if I don't say there is a possibility that I can find something, I won't look for it, or I won't look at it if it falls into my lap. And that is why depression or delusion are not helpful. Whereas what we really need is to look at reality squarely in the face and say, okay, now what can I do today? What can I do now? What am I learning? I am not giving up. I will never give up. Is that delusional? I don't think so. But I have to say, I'm never going to give up while simultaneously being relaxed, because I may not get an answer in my lifetime, or I may not see a healing of our planet or of our nation in my lifetime, or in fact, it may never happen. So I hope that this has made you think a whole bunch. And right now, I'm going to bring on my guests. Um, Let's see. First of all, we have Lizzie Treehart.
Hello.
And secondly, we have Todd Benton.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry that you're so small, but otherwise,
Yeah.
okay. So, who has a thought?
There's a third friend.
You
Hello.
didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not introduce you already?
You said my name.
Okay, this is James Maynard, the other friend. Yeah, I did say your name already. Okay, take it away, guys. Who would like to share? Yes.
Well, I'm having to make a shift from pretend thinking to seeing reality as it is. As Beth mentioned, I have impairments. I'm 81 years old. I have cognitive impairment. But I like to pretend that I still got it, that I'm not really that impaired. But stuff keeps showing up in my life. I have a lapse here and a lapse there, everywhere, lapse. Oh my God, how can that be happening? And so, uh, one of the ways in which I've been facing the reality is pulling out all the stops that I can think of to mitigate against the impairment. Trying to follow a good diet, or mostly organic food, uh, taking supplements that are designed to help the brain, working out regularly every week to help get more oxygen to the brain, things like that. So, in that sense, I am facing reality, the reality of my limitations, and doing something about them.
But on the other hand,
But on the other hand, I still like to pretend I'm better than I am. And I'm still having those lapses. It says, oh my God, how'd that happen?
and so what happens when you have a lapse when you've told yourself that you're just fine and you've still got it?
Well, I feel down,
Devastated.
devastated.
You see, one of the things, one of the downsides of not, you think you're going to be depressed by admitting reality. You're going to be depressed if you don't, because reality will bite you in the buns on a regular basis. And when it does, watch out because you've built up this illusion, this delusion. It's so much like, positive thinking or affirmations. If you think it, it will happen. If you visualize it, it will happen. And so now not only do you have that it didn't happen, but you feel like a failure because you just didn't visualize properly or didn't think positively enough. And maybe that's not what the problem is. Maybe you just don't know yet, or maybe it's never meant to be, or maybe you are going after the wrong thing.
So instead of when a lapse happens, instead of saying, I'm disillusioned, how can that be happening? I can say, oh, but of course, I have cognitive impairment.
Exactly. You see, that's the difference
That's the difference.
between facing reality.
Facing reality.
And therefore, we look at things and you can say, yeah, I think I can do that or not. And we have a comment from Betsy. We missed you at our last magical improv. Betsy's on YouTube says, true. I will never give up and looking forward to see these Marvo. These Marvo. I think there is something else in your comment that's
Marvelous.
maybe
Marvels.
Marvo. Okay, for some reason, Betsy, part of you got cut off. So very good. Let's not give up, but let's continue to be in reality while we're not giving up. Okay, who would like to share next?
I'll go.
Okay, Lizzie.
So, facing reality can be painful and scary.
Is Lizzie quiet for other people too? Or just
I
me?
can hear her, but if she got closer, it would be better.
Okay. Yeah,
Is it-
Lizzie, you're a little quiet.
Okay. Is
Oh, much better.
okay. So, facing reality is scary, and it feels like a big gamble in regards to we have a situation of do we pay for healthcare, which is really expensive? Basically, it's paying for another rent every month on one income.
Oh,
Well, we have a little bit more than one income, but it's not two full incomes like most people have today. Or do we go without insurance and risk, a catastrophic health event, car wreck, heart attack, whatever? And just the effects of, okay, well, here are the numbers. What are we going to do? And, give up things that we need in exchange for things that we think we need, or, We feel like we need health insurance. It's too big of a risk. But yet we're giving up other things that we need, like our mental health, not getting all the food that we normally buy. So it's like we are in a society where it's like, it's just so frustrating and just infuriating to be in this situation. And many, many people are in this situation, and many are not.
Well, let me comment on that in a second, but Skipper 00 on YouTube says, I can hear her. So he was able to hear you, Lizzie. But see, I have not such great hearing, but of course, I could hear Todd because he booms. But I do appreciate that you shared that, Skipper, and that Lizzie sat forward. Well, I mean, here is, you don't want to be delusional by saying, well, nothing catastrophic could ever happen to us, right? So that's would be delusional. On the other hand, the question is, what are you going to, what you would definitely lose by not taking care of yourself versus what you could potentially lose if you have had a catastrophic health event. So you're looking at, weighing whether I'm willing to take the chance. Oh, Amy says I can hear her too. Yeah. Well, she was sitting up and she was doing great then too. It was just earlier she was sitting back. So anyway, to my hearing, it was a problem. So here's the situation. You have to take a chance on, am I going to give up what I definitely need right now? Or am I going to take a chance, get everything I need now, but then maybe not have what I need in the future? So that isn't an easy choice to make. I would not say that that's easy. But, one thing, of course, is you have to look at reality. Can you live without this now? What are all the things that you do, and can you live without them? And what would you do if you had a catastrophic situation? You have to look at all that. But the question I want to ask you is, Lizzie, why did you say it's scary? Looking at reality is scary. Facing reality is scary. Reality may be scary, but facing it is not.
Well, the reality of it is scary. Facing it helps me to understand more what's going on instead of hiding our heads in the sand and not looking at where our budget is and being like, I don't know. But it's scary to, I never thought I'd be in this situation. I'm in the healthcare profession, and I never thought I'd be in this situation. And here we are in the richest country, one of the richest countries in the world, middle class, and having these issues. I don't know. Maybe I'm embarrassed instead of scared.
Well, you're getting closer, but let me share. We've had some comments. Betsy said, I'm having problemas with my internet. Betsy is in Puerto Rico. Well, thank you for explaining that, Betsy. So glad that you are here with us as well as posible. And Skipper said, thank you, Beth, for always being the voice that always grounds us back to reality. Oh my God, I'm going to give this guy a kiss, a hug, an abrazo, or what? Thank you, Skipper. I don't even know you, but I love that comment. I do try. I do, because I need it. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I was, really struggling today, feeling negative. And then as soon as I got this topic and I started writing up the little blurb, I started to feel happy. I started to feel happy because I knew that something had shifted in me. So I wonder what hasn't shifted in you yet, Lizzie, that might help you. So thank you for saying that, Skipper. And Betsy says, I will not give up beside all problemas that we have in the island of Puerto Rico. Problems with electricity. Oh my God. I don't envy you. You know, you have problems that we don't have to face. Now, I have problems with my internet. I have problems with my health. I have a lot of other problems. But typically, we have at least electricity. Not always. You know, we lived. We had big fires where we lived before, and we lost our electricity. And my God, did we didn't know how to cope. You know, I'm sure you guys are much better at coping because you have faced the reality that you will have those problems. And, you know, once you accept that reality, then you can start shifting the way you feel. Oh, and Skipper said, thank you. Been subscribed since 2015, but I wasn't always listening to your video, though. We have another though. But I wasn't always though I wasn't always listening to your videos. Well, great now that you are, and we love it, and we love the fact that you're commenting, and please do. And we're sending you lots of hugs to the island of Puerto Rico as well, to deal with all the problems and the insults that you have had to endure, you know, as Puerto Ricans, and the lack of support that certain politicians have given you. And also, you know, probably problems within your own little nation state. Oh, Skipper said, I kind of took a break from spirituality. Oh, that's interesting. Well, in a way, so have I. I have given myself a long break from ungrounded spirituality. And I believe in grounded spirituality, you know. So that's a whole other topic of what that is. So coming back to thank you for all these wonderful comments. I feel alive. I feel like, wow, we have people out there. So Lizzie, what do you think could shift in you that would allow you to relax? Because I didn't solve any of my problems. I just realized that I didn't have to accept either depression or delusion. And I said, okay, what can I do? And somehow some inner strength came back to me. Could that be a clue?
I feel pretty blocked right now. Probably, but what, just the relaxation?
Yes, just the relaxation. And Betsy says, cost of living is expensive. I bet it is. And we have trouble with few doctors on the island. Yeah, in a way that's terrible. And in a way you're lucky, because sometimes, you know, we go to the medical profession and it makes us worse. And I have had a lot of those experiences, but I understand, you know, if you're in a catastrophe, you might want a doctor or a hospital or something that they can help you with. So, yes. So, Todd?
Yes, I would like to talk about the topic first, just on a general way, and then
Yeah.
I will get to my own situation because I'm struggling to come up with something at this moment that I'm facing, not wanting to face the reality of. So
Or
let me
maybe
talk.
you have only recently faced it.
Yeah. Well, the first is I love what you said about this because my kind of upbringing through was to be in fantasy, and everything's going to turn out great, everything's going. So there is a fine line between having a positive attitude and a disposition toward possibility, but not believing in your own bullshit that it's going to come true. Like you can hold the possibility open without believing and hoping. You can hope, but you can let go of the attachment to that it's going to happen. So that's very helpful because sometimes I know I've gotten in situations where I want something to happen so bad and I just get attached to it, and then then like you said, you get depressed. Um, so I think the big thing that I don't want to face is that haven't wanted to face is just being honest with my feelings about everything. I kind of, because of my upbringing and my dad being uh, very dominating and forceful, I learned to try and, be submissive, but then I was covert behind his back.
Mhm.
And that's, I've carried out with other people, including you, in situations, my wife. And that isn't constructive, So that's where reality, not being in reality, ends up hurting me and hurting them
Yeah.
because they are feeling my negative energy because I'm not being honest and I'm pretending things are okay when they're not. um, so without going into specifics on that, I think that's the thing I'm facing is just be honest. If I'm triggered by something you say or anyone says, tell them. What's the harm in saying, hey, I got triggered by what you just said there? And then that creates an opening instead of trying to hide it and pretend that, like, oh, I'm fine, yeah, I'm good.
Very good, Todd. That's a very good point. It's the suppression of ourselves is very depressing. And when we're pretending about anything, we are suppressing ourselves. And I think about Lizzie's situation. You may decide that for now, you are choosing, you look at it realistically and you say, I'm not happy with either situation. Well, I feel the same way about our moving. I feel better at the coast. I have more life. So, do I choose to sit here in this house and feel like I'm going to die, or but still have the safety of things being close by? So, if James can't drive, that I can, and all of those things, right? And I say, okay, I think that's what it has to be. Um, so it's not that these choices are always very pleasant, but whatever choice that I make, I'm not stuck with it because my soul, my being, my mind is still in pursuit of answers. That maybe there is an answer, a way to earn more money or get another job that has health insurance, or that something else will occur, um, that you will, and that you feel that you're still open, but you just relax about it and say, okay, this is what I had to decide. And so this is it. And so, but don't get stuck with it. Do you understand what I mean? Say, oh, yes, for now I'm accepting this, and it may stay like this for the rest of my life, or it may not. And just once I say that, and I can laugh at myself, I can relax. So I don't know if that's helpful to you, but I can tell you that being all upset about it isn't going to help. And feeling like you should you're justified in being upset, and so you're going to curse the government and I mean, I understand that, you know what I'm saying, but getting all revved up and angry is like, see, I can prove that I've had a raw deal. Or one thing that I would do is I would be saying, okay, well, what can I look for that I can do for free? How can I generate more money? What can I do for free? What other possibilities are there that maybe I'm just not seeing? So that keeps me in the game. But without that, it's got to change, and it's got to be this way, because if it's got to be any particular way, I'm going to be disappointed. And then I'm going to get depressed. And it's going to prove to me how terrible life really is. And so in this moment, I can't feel any joy because I'm too busy feeling how terrible life is, how unjust everything is, how unfair everything is. See what I mean? That's not good. So, on that unhappy note, I think it's time for us to close tonight's show. We didn't hear from anybody on Facebook, which is kind of unusual, but we are happy that you're there, and we love you when you come live and you can chat with us, and we love you if you don't come live, and if you come dead, I guess we appreciate you also. And Please give this show a love or a like. Please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. If you feel that way, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. And I feel like you're a part of us because when you're with us, we feel stronger. So, with no further ado, tomorrow night, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, we play music, magical improvs with the Kindred Spirits Band, which is James and me. And by the way, we actually got a gig playing at a restaurant. We've been trying to find one for years, and I had totally given up. And then it happened, and Skipper gave us 3 thumbs up. Yes. Oh, Amy said she couldn't see us on Facebook. Glad I could watch you here. Well, I'm glad it says we're live screaming. Yes. Glad you came, all of you. Okay, so tomorrow night, 7 p.m. music. And next Wednesday, come back to Lighting the Way with Beth Green and friends. And now let's see if I can close this the right way. Okay, I have to go to the music and say goodbye.